Hello, guys, and welcome to
Hello,
the
hello.
Connected Community Con. I am Kayleigha from Science Division, and over here we have Jay, who's the other half of the Science Division team.
Hey everyone, welcome.
And of course, we also have joining us Mel from SidCity.net. Mel is the head of Sid's fan club, and Mel's been helping us for the past couple of weeks get this organized. He's been very patiently responding to all of our emails, so we want to say really thank you, Mel, because it is because of you that all of this panel is possible.
Oh, my pleasure. We're delighted to be involved.
So the other thing I want to let everybody know is that we are recording this. If you do not want to be part of the recording, you can shut off your camera and you won't be included in that recording. So otherwise, we'll just get started. And of course, everyone is here to see you, Sid, so why don't we have you say hello?
Hello, everybody. Of course, you're not all here to see me. Hopefully, some of you are here to see you guys as well, other friends and people on this chat. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks to both you guys, Jay and Kayleigha, for getting me on and being kind enough to extend an invitation. I know that Science Division is destined for great things, and I'm really happy to be part of it.
We are so glad to have you here. This started off as this really kind of small idea. Jay and I were kind of thinking, you know, the vendors room was where everything was at, and now there aren't any vendors rooms going on with the conventions being gone. We're kind of thinking, well, what can we do about it? And we thought, well, we have a website. We'll just see if people want to post their information on it, and we'll set up some Zoom meetings, and we'll do a thing. And it has grown and grown and grown since then. And a lot of that has just really come out of the community. You know, it is a community event. And everything has come out of it being a community event, with people like Ali saying, hey, I want to do a fan panel, and people like Keith saying, hey, can I share my music? And of course, you know, Sid is here, which is just incredible, and we have an after party. So Larry Nemechek is going to do some pub trivia, and we're so excited about that. And Sid, we're so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. And it's really great to have a bunch of people come and shake off the stuff in the vendor's room, you know, shake the dust off all some merchandise, and people can have a look around and remember what it was like to even browse and inspect merchandise in the vendor's room. Obviously, it's virtual, but hey, it's better than shopping online, just without any faces to talk to and people to chat about the stuff that people are making and creating and selling.
Yeah, and I do see some costumes out here in the crowd, which we're really excited about, because Hen in a Hat is going to host a table, so y'all can go and talk about your costume making. And so, Sid, we're here to talk to you about community. This is a day to celebrate community.
Yeah.
In particular, I mean, the Star Trek community is obviously very familiar with you and with Dr. Bashir, who we all love.
Thank you.
I was just amazed when Mel reached out to me to say that you were interested in coming, and so I'd love to talk about, you know, what inspired you to join us, because it was your idea to be here, and we're so grateful.
Well, actually, no, you know, you decided to get this together, and you decided to do it for free, and to me that was a magic word, because there's not even a whiff of exploitation about this, but it helps other people who are having trouble staying in business get the wheels grinding around again, and that's fantastic. That's a really wonderful community service as far as I'm concerned. And you know, the Star Trek community is such a, I mean, it's a really multi-varied, wildly, I mean, differing people from all walks of life. But one thing a lot of us have in common is a real sense of empathy and a real sort of nurturing sense. And we're all pretty unusual people, even though there's a lot of us. It's a big minority, but we're all pretty oddbally type kind of people. And we kind of, it's great to find solace in each other's company. And especially during these past 8-9 weeks now, we've been doing the Sid City Social Club, which really came around kind of, both Mel and I, weirdly one night, without even talking to each other. I hadn't talked to her for 6 months. Maybe 2 months, I don't remember, but not for a long time. I wrote to her and said, listen, I think we should do something that gets people together, because there's going to be a lot of people who might be quite lonely here, and a lot of people who might be lonely even though they're in a big family structure in their house. I heard that people, you know, and anyone could, anything, it's good to see you, anybody, anything can happen. And we, piece by piece, we just trial and error our way into creating a social club, which Mel would come up with an idea one week and go, wouldn't this be grand? And I would go, that's a great idea. And so we have a few people sing songs and show us their art and all sorts of great stuff. So it's just it's a lovely venue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's been great. I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you, we were kind of inspired by the social club and by that, you know, kind of setup to go this way with the panel. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, in those kind of conversations that you've been having with people, and since you've been doing this from the beginning, how has kind of your understanding of the fandom and the community grown and changed as you've been interacting with more of us oddballs in those meetings?
Amazingly, you know, everybody, my feelings about the community haven't changed. My feelings, I think, were probably, I've done enough conventions and talked to enough fans. I mean, I don't get to talk very much at a convention because you've got this hurtling train coming through with, you know, 400 or 500 people, sometimes 1,000 people waiting for something. Right. And you get sort of 2 seconds at the worst case scenario, and I tend to steal a couple more minutes if I can, just to get to know people a little bit, because it seems a bit unfair not to at least say hello. Where are you from? What are you doing? Goodbye. So I kind of had an instinct about everybody, and sure, there are some truly bizarre people who occasionally turn up, which is fine. But mostly everybody I've talked to, and I get to talk to about 8 people, 16 people a week. I mean, we try and give 15 minutes each to everybody. It's a 2-hour session. I think that it's, you know, it's really friendly, and it was a real privilege to get to know people and their story. And they always start out by saying, my story is really boring compared to the last person. And then they're amazing, and they've got something, and they're fascinating. Wherever they work, whatever they do, however they're dealing with this COVID thing, wherever they are in the world, because we're talking to people in China, in Russia, in Brazil. We've got friends in Belarus. One family just claimed they all have COVID-19 now. That was a shocker a couple of days ago. And it was like, really? We're all just trying to avoid it here. And she seemed fine and healthy.
I was surprised she was so upbeat about it. She just kind of went, oh, by the way, we all have it. We're fine. We have no symptoms. And
I know.
then on to the next thing.
I know. And that makes it even more special to get together with people face to face and tell your story, because there's no way you're going out. COVID-19.
Yeah. So talking about, you know, community, we hear about community within the casts, and we know that, you know, the stars are this vibrant part of the Trek community, and obviously, you know, we wouldn't be having these conventions without you guys. But what was it like in terms of community on the set while you guys were filming? Did you have stuff that you guys got together and did?
We were really professional, you know. I mean, we were really surprised that we were doing this show, and that we'd all landed on somehow on our feet, all pick golden tickets and get a tour of the Wonka factory. And we a lot of us family men, you know, Armin and the late Renee, and Avery. So people would go home because that's where the duty lay. And so we didn't do a lot of socializing outside outside the show, except Armin would occasionally throw one of his wonderful parties, or Renee would, Nana would often do that. But it would be sort of 3 or 4 times a year, not very often. And but that was pretty much it. One nice thing we had, as a kind of thank you to the crew, I think once a month, one of the cast members was obliged to hire a little mobile Starbucks and wheel it on set so everybody could get free coffees for the day. And that was kind of fun. I think we were really friendly. I mean, most people have met a lot of the Deep Space Nine cast, and you know, what you see is what you get. Those guys are precisely who they appear to be, and you kind of get a hint of it in their characters. You know, you get a hint of who they are. I don't think anybody would be surprised, for example, when they meet Colmini, that he's like he was O'Brien, you know, or Avery Brooks was like Avery Brooks going boom with that big voice of his, you know, sure. Scaring the living daylights of everybody. But we didn't hang out a lot. I hang out with Andy Robinson, who played Garak, who is still one of my dearest friends right now. I obviously married Nana, which was a pretty social thing to do. And I've had the pleasure of hosting her on City Social Club twice now in the last 8 weeks. She's been really kind, generously giving her time. So that's kind of picture.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think it is about the Star Trek fandom that really has endured all of this time? You know, we're gathering here 50 plus years later, celebrating a show that started in the 60s and obviously has gone through many iterations, and we all have our favorite Treks. But I think the fandom is a huge part of Trek and why it survives. So as we're celebrating community, you know, what is it about the community that makes it special?
I think that Gene Roddenberry, who and his wife Majel, I'm sure to some degree, came up with a utopian world that is about as close to morally correct as I can imagine. It's close to living, you know, walking the walk, not talking the walk, talking the talk, which we hear our politicians do. And it I mean, apart from, you know, a little bit of kind of, I suppose, socially incorrect misdemeanors by the Captain Kirk when he was finding a new girl every couple of episodes. But that was in the 60s. So I think that the show evolved. It's a living tree, you know, and it kept up with the times. And I think you can happily talk about it in front of your children. I think they might not be able to see everything that happens on the show, but the tenets of the show, the lore of the show, is really solid, really beautiful, actually. And I think people feel safe in that environment because that's who we all are. We came out of the womb as good people, and we spend the next 18, 20 years becoming steadily worse. And then we realize it's time to get good again. And shows like Star Trek give you hope that that is possible. And then you meet other people who like it, and they too are trying to be good foremost. And I think goodness is at the heart of humanity. Yeah,
I think that's great. And I think that especially being in some of the Sid City social club meetings, you know, that's what we've been finding, right? Everyone is so supportive of each other in the community and building each other up.
Yeah.
And some of those people are going to be here participating in the convention, and you know, that's exciting. Because there are people from the Sid City Social Club here, I do feel that I have to ask you about your tomatoes. Can you tell us how they're doing?
Oh, yes. 8 weeks ago, I started growing tomatoes in the yard. And I took a photograph, actually, because hopefully it comes out. Can you see that at all clearly?
Yeah.
There's some green tomatoes there, and they're coming in really well. They're very happy. I think I have to push, I don't know how to do that with this, but they're good. So I've got tomatoes, and they are all cooking, coming along nicely. And in about a week, just before they get ripe, or 2 weeks, the squirrels will steal them. I know that's going to happen because they stole them last year, and they put them up on top of a trellis, like, we stole your tomatoes. This is where they are. We don't even want to eat them. We just want to steal them. So they'll take them.
Well, they always wait until they're ripe, right? You know, you're looking at it, just ready to pick, and then it's gone. It's the moment it's ripe.
The minute they can smell them, they're like, oh, tomatoes. I don't like tomatoes, but I'm taking them.
Yeah. Yeah, we do quite a few things, and we lose stuff to the animals all the time, but they always take the exact moment.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd like to add about the Sid City Social Club is that I think the thing that surprised me most is people's candor, people's honesty about themselves. People they know that 100 people are listening, and they say things that you would need to get to know somebody pretty well before you talked about those things. And that's really beautiful. And it inspires me. And I talk quite candidly. So I think people are learning who I am, and we're learning who everybody else is. I never need to do another interview. That would be useless. Everybody knows everything about me now, and my wife, and my kid, and my ex-wife. What the hell? Yeah,
we can just go through the Sid City highlight videos, right? And
there you go, yeah.
We refer to video number X, Y, or Z. And
exactly. Good luck with that. How many must there must be hours of them now. There must be like 16 hours of those videos. So good luck with that.
Well, I think they're great because they're also celebrating the people that you meet, right? You know, so it's not just getting to know you when you go back and watch the videos. It's getting
that was Mel's early, exactly. That was Mel's early admonition was make it about them. You know, let's talk to, you know, people literally can find out about me from interviews. But we don't get to find out about everybody else. So it's really been fascinating asking people about their lives and how they're coping and what they're doing and what they love doing and what they think of their mother and how they identify. I mean, you know, there's a million different things that we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, and I think also you've been really great about using it as a platform for not only learning about each other, but learning about aspects of the community that we don't know much about. You know, there've been a lot of discussions around Pride this month and learning more about each other in that way. And I think that that's great too. Everyone needs a safe space to have those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you see, I want to learn because I'm just your conventional old man, and I want to know what everyone else is like. Why do they make these choices? Are they choices? What would they like? What do they think about us? And how can we better understand them? And it's quite nice to do that with 100 friends around.
Yeah. So as I know you've been interacting like really personally with a lot of fans lately, but you've also been at conventions. Do you have a favorite kind of fan story or convention moment? Something that sticks out?
I have some unusual convention moments. I don't know whether it'd be favorite. The thing is, when you're doing something and you're meant to be the kind of good look at one of the good, well, in TVs it's standard. You have the older, mature actors, you have the younger, supposedly good-looking actors, and you have the ones who are kind of funny and all that. And I was supposed to be the good-looking one, as the male version, which is a bit of a stretch, but somehow I snuck in under the radar there. And so people had an opinion of me before they met me. And I was attractive without actually having to prove to be attractive, which is kind of a weird thing, which celebrities kind of go through. You know, everybody knows that I'm supposed to be attractive, therefore I am attractive. It's like when a critic first says you're a good actor, everybody says, well, he's a good actor. You know, you don't get to make up your own mind about some of these things for some reason. And I love it when people do. But so I became good looking. I had a weird thing where we were in, I can't remember which city, I think it was Georgia. I think it was, and I think it was Georgia in the mid-90s. A young lady came up to me and handed me a copy of Playboy magazine. Most people won't know what that is. It was, I think it was Varsity edition or something like that, I can't remember, but on the front she had written page 48 or whatever page it was, and I opened it and my god, there she was. And that was pretty weird. That's a pretty weird thing to get in a line of people. So I can't go red because I'm already too colorful, but if I could I would, because I opened it right then and then. I just didn't think, and she was totally unashamed. She was like, yeah, here I am. Pretty cool, huh? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's one story I haven't told anyone before.
So was the idea for you to sign it? You know, that's a whole new...
No, she wanted me to have it. I think she wanted me to have it. And I didn't really follow up on that.
Yeah.
That would have been a bit too weird to have to actually go, oh, that's really wonderful. What should we do about it?
Is there a gift that a fan has given you that has been really meaningful?
Many. I mean, too many to count. Really, there are so many, and I wouldn't pick one out, mainly because I mean, there was a while I had to put them. I felt terrible. You know, I had to put them in a bath in one of my bathrooms in the house, and it was because, it just became so full. That then it became boxes, and then it became, because you just can't, you know, your house would be, as you can see behind me, there's not a lot going on, and it's not cluttered. But they're meaningful because they really meant something to the person who drew it, who fashioned it, who made it, and from cakes, you know, to little dolls to wonderful drawings to, I mean, you name it. And there's someone at City Social is doing cross-stitching, which is amazing. And people making wonderful costumes and stuff like that. So you can't really, it's a bit tough. It's a bit like being anybody who gets a lot of gifts. You just have to be pretty tough about it after a while, but it's really touching.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thought that counts, right?
Certainly.
And so now it's been a while since you played Bashir, but it sounds like, you know, you continue to get these gifts. Do you still feel really connected to the character, or is that something that feels like you did it and you've moved on?
No, I'm more connected to him now than I was, say, 15, 20 years ago when we finished the show, 25 years ago when we finished the show. I wanted to get away from him at that point because I'd just been 7 years doing that, and I was told that Star Trek actors rarely have an existence after Star Trek. And so I was really chomping at the bit to get in, you know, to get in the business, back in the business and start exploring other characters. And that kind of meant denouncing my past, kind of being slightly ashamed of it in a weird way, partly because it was not a popular show. And at that time, Star Trek was incredibly divisive. People were, I mean, in a good way, you either loved it or you hated it. And there was very few people on the fence about it. It's just so happened a lot of people loved it, but it had a reputation of being kind of corny, and I had to get away from that as a professional. I had to sort of distance myself from that because I lost. There were several jobs that I lost very quickly because they'd learned that I'd just finished Star Trek, because producers don't really watch TV, and they were like, "Oh no, we can't be associated with that show." Now, of course, people really do want to be associated with it. It's got a really glossy finish on it, and it's a source of great pride for me. But I've also gone through my career. I got what I wanted to do done. I got some of the things I wanted to do done. I got to work with other actors on other projects. I got to work in serious projects. I got to work in not so serious projects. I've been very, very lucky. I have a very versatile, very varied career. So now I'm welcoming all my old ghosts back into my house.
Well, it's funny that you say that, you know, that nobody wanted to touch anybody on Star Trek, because I feel like constantly whenever I'm watching anything, like, that guy was in Star Trek, she was in Star Trek, that person was in, I feel like Star Trek is everything.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, the guest stars on Star Trek are among the most, you know, distinguished actors on the planet, and they were at the time, and they were already doing other fine work. But the regulars, they're the ones who have a tough time finding work again. Sure. And you'll see a lot of them. A lot of us, really, you don't see so much of, even though you would like to.
Yeah. Well, I think you should feel really proud of what you guys did with Deep Space Nine. I was just in a conversation with a group of fans, and we were talking about people of color, women of color in Star Trek, and you know, these people were saying this was the first show that we saw where we saw us on TV, and, you know, ever since Uhura was on TV, and why did it years to get here, and Deep Space Nine was just talking about all of these issues that were issues that needed to be discussed. And, you know, Jay and I are doing a rewatch of it right now, and in some ways it's really hard at the moment to get through because there are so many things that are difficult that are discussed, but it's also really important. So I think that's really something to be proud of having been a part of.
I'm totally proud of having a part of it, of being a part of it. And also I'm really grateful to Rick Berman and Ira Stephen Burr and late Michael Piller, and, you know, the whole team who cooked this up, because we certainly didn't. The cast didn't. Someone had to go, hey, we're going to do a serialized show, and everyone was like, wait, no one does that. You can't make money doing serialized shows. And Ira and Rick stuck to their guns. The studio let us do it, and off we went.
Yeah, and I think it's been, I mean, I've heard people talk about it as, you know, the beginning of the era of doing a show where you can have a long arching story, that Deep Space Nine really paved the way for that. And that was, you know, you guys as actors really committing to the roles and, you know, giving us characters to follow and fall in love with. And, you know, we talked about you starting out Bashir as the puppy doctor and growing into, you know, this real man who was part of that community. And, you know, I think that's what made Deep Space Nine so great. So it's the direction that.
Yeah. And, you know, the question I hardly ever got asked, and I know Avery did. He was a more political animal than I am, or well, I am. But very few people asked me where Bashir was from. They just accepted him. I mean, he was a man of color, you know, but they welcomed him into their living rooms. And that was really great. I didn't particularly mind about, I don't remember anybody discussing it. I mean, my parents did eventually appear, and they were clearly from somewhere else too. But it was Earth. as far as the Star Trek universe is concerned, that's it. There's no like different geographical borders once you get to Earth. And but the fact that there was lack of curiosity among the Star Trek community was really nice, because I know there was some real vitriol outside the Star Trek community. You know, when it was announced that I was having a baby, we had such alarming things said about us that we had to get the FBI involved. So they were outside of the Star Trek community, things were still pretty dangerous. And people were using N-words all the time. But in it, nobody ever questioned me. Nobody ever worried, well, at least not to my face. And I met a lot of people. So that's a real testament to the goodness of the Star Trek community.
Yeah. And I guess that's why we're here, is to just kind of try to continue to keep all of that going today. You know, as we're all separated from each other, this is a way to bring people together from all over the world to really celebrate that. And unfortunately, we are running out of time, and I hate to be there. I do want to make sure to just remind everybody of all of the great stuff that we have coming today. Please, please, please head from here into the virtual vendors room. Talk to all of the people that are there. They're incredible people. They just want to talk to you. You know, let's go support them. When the vendors room closes at 6, Ali Martinez is going to do a fan panel. Ali is just this like incredible beacon of positivity within the community, and she's going to talk to us about how keeping that positivity going, even when, you know, there are people online that maybe aren't being so kind. So we'll talk about ways to kind of deal with that and stay positive. And then Keith from White Plectrum is going to do a live set of music on his Twitch channel. It's Filk. I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up. It's music inspired, hopefully I don't get this wrong, Keith. It's music inspired by science fiction and fantasy, and it's all original pieces, I believe, that he's done and put together. So if we can all show up and listen, it's going to be a fantastic concert to listen to, a great way to support another member of the community. And then we'll have a little bit of a break between when that set finishes, and then head back to the homepage, which is where all the links will be, at 8. And we'll do some pub trivia with Larry. He does want you to know it's bring your own beer. So that being said, we're just about, unfortunately, at the end of our interview. Sid, is there anything else that you want to?
I just want you all to have a really wonderful time today. And just remember that you're all here. You're all part of this community because you believe in similar things. And that you don't just talk about them, you actually demonstrably do them. And you are demonstrably good people. So go and have some fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for being here. This is just incredible. And we hope to see all of you in the virtual convention vendors room.
Good luck, everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't talk to anybody personally, but swing by Sid City Social Club and we can chat one of these days.
Definitely. All right, everybody, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. Thank you.